Australia's food and farming production is down. Let's have a look. Good morning, everyone. I'm Florian Heise, and welcome to another episode of Heise Says. Once again, with my loyal stein of coffee, and I thought we would go through this article to do with the drought affecting our farm production. And, that transitioned really quick. So ABRA's forecasts 4-year low for farm production amid drought and trade wars. Now, ABRA's, and I will jump over here, is the Australian Government Department of Agriculture. And this is their data survey, and we'll have a look through some visualizations they have a bit later, just to get an understanding of really where our farming and food production industry was sitting at the time of the data, which is a few years old, but I think still relevant, particularly if you've never seen it before. So we're looking at a 4-year low. Drought and the US-China trade war will knock the value of Australia's farm production to $59 billion this year, its lowest level for 4 years, according to the Australian Bureau of Agriculture and Resource Economics and Sciences. Now, if we have a look here from the Observatory of Economic Complexity, this is a great website. We can get a look at our wheat exports here from Australia is worth $4.88 billion. And now the government is saying that Australian farm production to $59 billion this year. So it will reduce, but it still is a fairly big chunk. I mean, what we'll do is we'll just jump here. So this graph is just exports, so it's not the entire sector, but we can isolate crude petroleum, coal, here we go, foodstuffs. We'll isolate that. You can see here the value of this sector. Oh, I'm going all over the place. It's a funny way I'm doing it with regards to this. So, our food sector is 7.71 billion, at least at the time of this data. Animal products, what was that? 13.9 billion. So we can see how it's going to affect all the different sectors. And have a play at that website, guys, if you hadn't yourself. The government forecast says the value of Australian farm production will fall by 5% on last year, with the volume of production to hit its lowest level since the millennium drought. In its latest agricultural commodity outlook, ABRA's also anticipates that net farm incomes will fall by 12% on last year, and export earnings expected to dip to $44 billion. The latest figures fall short of the government-backed National Farmers Federation target to grow Australia's farm industry to be worth $100 billion by the year 2030. How? What are they doing to support that? What are we doing to capture water and new dam infrastructure to feed this $100 billion food basket? Can someone tell me? Because it hasn't kept up with it. It has not kept up with it. And I will link, I'm going to write down this time, and I'll do it this time, I promise. I'll link to a video above, just looking at our increase in population relative to our increase in water storage in dams. We're becoming more and more dependent on desalination. So trade wars won't help in the long run. The US-China trade war, according to ABRA's, has created some opportunities for Australian farmers, but it has driven an economic downturn in Australia's major markets and increased competition in existing export markets. As China looks for suppliers outside the US, Australia's fruit and nut farms have been big winners. The value of almond exports to China grew by more than 100% last year. But, it's not going to be for the long run, is it? ABRA said the trade war, along with the spread of African swine fever, had benefited livestock producers already experiencing unprecedented global demand. But the benefits will be short-lived and are expected to be limited for Australian agricultural producers. The trade war is likely to have long-term implications that will outweigh short-term benefits, ABRA's reported. About 25% of Australia's agricultural exports are sent to China, where the economic outlook is suffering due to trade tensions. The risk is that consumers in these markets could react by substituting away from high-value agri-food products to low-cost alternatives, the report said. Well, isn't that what everyone does? Beyond food, the US imports on Chinese consumer goods, such as clothing, could disrupt the global supply chain in these markets. This presents a significant risk for Australian fibre exporters. So, the drought drags down production. Grain crops typically account for about 15% of the value of Australian exports, but drought continues to hit the cropping sector hard. While there are some hopes, a good season in parts of Western Victoria will help production this year. Abras expects one of the smallest winter crops of the past decade. If drought conditions across southeastern Australia were to extend into 2021, the national crop production and exports are likely to decline as they have in the past 3 years. Historical rainfall records indicate that 3 consecutive crop failures in New South Wales would be unprecedented. Drought has also hindered the livestock sector, which is expected to continue destocking. Case builds for grains reporting. Abras has used its commodity outlook to signal support for stock reporting by the grain industry. This year, Australia permitted the imports of foreign-grown grain for the first time in more than a decade, amid a struggle to source high-protein grain. Well, there you go. In its report, Abras said clear stocks reporting would help businesses that consume grain assess returns from securing import pathways and meeting Australia's rigorous biosecurity protocols. The availability of grain stocks information helps market participants to ascertain their negotiation position and assesses the benefits and costs of trading in Australia's grain market relative to other international markets, Abras said. Forthcoming analysis by Abras found that improved public reporting of national grain stocks in times of drought complements the commercial knowledge of businesses to better evaluate the benefits and costs of these investments. Some farm groups have been calling for greater transparency among handlers' grain stock, arguing it would give the industry a clearer understanding of what grain was available. We know there's grain on farms, and we know there's grain in the system in some respects, but we don't know the total amount of grain, Grain Producers Australia Chairman Andrew Weidenman said. And that's the value of having a more transparent grain system. Okay, so interesting. I'm concerned of the potential for more government bureaucracy. But then again, with information tech these days, it should be very easy for people to share this information. So I thought we'd have a look at this is the Australian Agricultural Census 2015 to 2016 visualizations, just to get a bit of understanding. And you can, it's not current, but it's still useful. This is showing us the total agriculture in Australia, 55 billion. And you can see per different states, 8 million in ACT. What happened there? There we go. 8 million in ACT, 13 billion in New South Wales, the Northern Territory. You can see Queensland. Yep, we're the best. Yes, go Queensland. Or at least we were. So you can see the regions of Australia. And I mean, you can see here, look here at total agriculture. This is really interesting to see what portions. Well, here we go. APY lands, total agriculture, 0. That's interesting. Look at 8 million. Look at all these areas in the middle of the country that don't produce anything. And look at where our production is. A lot of agriculture in Queensland. Here we go. Down in Western Australia. So I'm learning something new. We can see here the Griffith region. One of the highest. Where is it? There it is. Roma region. Interesting. So, I mean, this obviously gives you just an understanding of what is the website's doing a bit funny. I don't know why. So, areas, production numbers, and yields. So, the outback is, I'm going to refresh this. Okay. So I will close this one because I think the website's not liking it. Production area numbers and yields. So the outback, total area rank 1. Y, estimate share 9%. Is this just the areas? States, area of holding, total area. Okay, here we go. We can do different things. So let's have a look at vegetables for human consumptions. Total area. There you go. You can see where we're producing our vegetables for human consumptions. The Lockyer Valley. Yeah, and that's been hit because of the drought. What else do we want to look at? Let's go crops, total crops. No, we'll go fruit and nuts. Let's have a look at the fruit and nuts grapes total, and you can see here where it's all produced. So this is interesting. What's the Griffith is the highest. So for a city slicker for me, this is very interesting. What do we want? Crops, total crops, including broadacre, hay, silage, and horticulture area. And there you go. So let's go down. Let's look at the number of businesses. And we can see here, well, 26,000 businesses in New South Wales. You can just see where they're all placed. That's just the total number. And we'll go down here, water usage. And, you know, New South Wales at the top, then Queensland, then Victoria. Western Australia is pretty low. But you can see where our water usage is. Pardon me. So guys, this is a useful website to get a bit of an understanding. Oh, and here we go, land management practices. And I don't know why it's bugging out, maybe a bit old. So, land mainly used for agricultural purposes. And we can see, yeah, it's probably a bit old, the visualization. But you can see all the areas. I mean, they're saying agriculture is used for mainly agricultural purposes. And the outback there in South Australia, is that cattle? Are they running cattle there? So guys, it's interesting to see what happens. We're definitely going to have, you know, feel this will be a cost of living increase if it continues. Have you noticed food has gotten more expensive? What are your purchasing decisions? I mean, we buy meat in bulk from the local butcher, and that saves us a bit of money. But particularly with our diet and our size of family, it's gotten more expensive. If we were eating junk, it'd be a lot cheaper. Anyway, guys, like, share, and subscribe. Let me know what you think, and I'll talk to you later. Bye for now.